Wednesday Hafide Todes Hamzu, this virtual oversight hearing by the Committee on Federal and Foreign Affairs, Telecommunications, Technology, and Labor is hereby called to order. It is now 1:00 p.m. For the record, and in accordance with Section 8107 of Chapter 8(5) GCA, public hearing notices were sent on Friday, September 4th, 2020, adhering to the 5 working day notice, and a second public notice on Friday, September 11th, 48 hours prior to today. In addition, this virtual oversight hearing was noticed on the Guam Legislature's website at www.guamlegislature.org. Joining me here this afternoon are Senators Jose Piro Turlahi, Senator Mary Camacho Torres, and Senator Will Castro. Colleagues, thank you so much for joining us. And before we proceed with the discussion of items on our virtual oversight hearing agenda, I'd like to provide some general rules of conduct for all of those who are in attendance. All members must abide by all rules of conduct and quality assurance standards that we reviewed prior to going live. When speaking, please ensure that you're unmuted and speaking into your microphone. The chair will invite individuals who signed up to testify, and individuals testifying shall first be recognized by the chair before speaking and shall state their name and title for record purposes. The order of questioning will begin with the panel of senators who shall complete their lines of questioning for each respective item on the agenda. Each member will be allowed to pose a question to an individual testifying for a round and will be provided another round if necessary. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violations of these general rules of conduct will result in removal from the meeting room. And again, I just want to welcome everyone and say Hafaday. Thank you for joining us. This is the 5th in a series of hearings with the Guam Department of Labor to receive updates on federally funded pandemic unemployment benefits. And I'd like to thank the Guam Department of Labor, Director David Della Sola and his entire team for all the work that they've done and for making the time to participate today, especially given the important work that the department is currently undertaking. I'd like to again recognize DOL for recognizing the need to continually inform our people about the latest information on the critical pandemic unemployment assistance, or PUA, and federal pandemic unemployment programs. Millions of dollars are now in the hands of thousands of families who've lost income during this public health crisis. And the aim of today's hearing is in line with our previous public discussions with GDOL, namely to receive an update on the federal unemployment programs placed under their purview by Congress through the CARES Act, and also to receive an update regarding PUA, fraud prevention, overpayments, dislocated worker opportunities, and also childcare. And so at this time, I'd like to call Director Della Sola, who's signed up to testify. I believe, I'm not sure if Hannah has also joined us, but maybe just Director Della Sola at this point. But I wanted to give Director Della Sola an opportunity to give us any general updates before we begin any questions. So Director Della Sola, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it. And again, thank you, Senators, for inviting me today for another briefing. I have Hannah in the room with me, sitting off to my right. Yes, I try to get through a lot of information as quickly as possible. It's been a while, so to jump right into it, the last batch we ran, which was the 9th of September, was a total of $24 million in PUA and FPUC benefits and $2 million in total taxes for a total of $26 million. And that is already hitting the banks and is out as we speak. The grand total, including that amount, is $321.5 million in PUA and FPUC benefits and $28.6 million in tax. giving a total in the 3.5 months we've been giving claims to $350.1 million that is out to in this economy. And it's been a lot of work, and we continue to do this. Authorized funds, as I'm sure you know, was $924 million, and totally authorized for release that's been put into the payment management system has been a total of $509 million. So that's the amount that we're drawing from. I'm happy to announce that tonight we are going to batch another round of payments, and this is for all clean claims to include August 10th. The last one was the 29th of July, and this one will include till the 10th of August. So we'll get that dollar amount tomorrow sometime in the morning once it batches up. As you know, in August earlier, we closed the GCC in end of July, and we opened up the PUA call center at the bell tower on the second floor. We also, before PCOR 1, at the 3 libraries in Jotnya, Dedido, and Agate, we were already on the downside of the total claims, and we were seeing everybody that came in to the libraries, to include new claimants and people with problem claims. So we were handling all without appointments and moving very well. And then, of course, in August 16th, PCOR 1 hit. We did shut down for a whole week to regroup and to conform with the executive order. And then the following week, the second week, the governor allowed us to open up our call center. So to date, we have all the PUA staff working in combination at the call center and at teleworking. They're all handling calls, problem claims, and we continue to do this. And also, of course, going through and cleaning each day to continue our payments. As you know, one of the biggest concerns is fraud. And that's why we still have a team of people going through each day, trying to go through and clean claims as they're getting in. We have over 20,000 potential fraud claims. And just since July, our daily claim fraud rate is 80% fraud to 20% claims. This outstanding number has been exhaustive, and we are constantly adding and removing. We're trying to tweak the program, so we're adding new fraud measures as some are presented to us by the programmers, and as we notice things that may work in order to cut down fraud. Sometimes we added new measures that worked well, and they're working silently. And some of these fraud measures caught too many good claims, and that's why you've noticed some claimants say, what happened? My account's all of a sudden this or that. And they were effectively removed in the next coming days. So this is a constant evolution where we try to introduce new measures, and we throw out that net and see how many fraud to clean claims get caught. Those that catch mostly the fraud, we remain, will stay into as measures that we implement on a daily basis. So with that, fraud is not only on Guam, but nationwide. We continue to work with the Office of Inspector General, OIG, and the FBI. And, I would love to give you more information on fraud, but there is a high confidentiality rate on how fraud is coming in and how they're doing it. All I can tell you is that as 80% daily, they're getting better and better at hiding the fraud with our clean claims, and it is exhausting and taking up more resources to try to identify them. The one thing that I will speak on fraud is that the U.S. Department of Justice, the FBI, and the OIG are launching soon, next month, a money mule initiative. And this is one of the biggest concerns with fraud is the money mules. It's everybody's participating along with Guam, since they've all substantially seen a spike in fraud, and information from the OIG will be given to not only us and new tools for us to combat it, but also materials that will be released to the public on what is a money mule, how to detect to make sure that you didn't fall prey to it if you were involuntarily became one, and also things to look out for. So that is something that has been high on our radar, and I don't know if you've heard, I've not mentioned about it too much, but that tends to be a big concern. And without going into too much detail, basically a money mule falls into two categories. Those who voluntary, like you see a lot of these things on where you can make quick money for being for a quick job to be a money processing agent. And basically what they do is they use your legitimate bank account to funnel money in it, and then you transfer it to them. And that's how the money gets laundered. Other money mules are the involuntary ones. There's when they have your identification and your information, and they open up accounts under your name without you knowing, and those are legitimate accounts, and the money, as they've applied for PUA, gets sent to that bank, and then once that hits that bank, it gets sent out and gets lost in the atmosphere of fraud. So that, in a nutshell, without getting too deep, is what a money mules are, accounts are. And that you'll be getting more information.
Thank you.
With that in mind, since July, when I first brought this up to you, I also brought it up to USDOL. That Guam is no different than the states, that we are battling it, and I'm seeing a deep increase in it. And I'm happy to say that on Friday, we submitted our SF-424 for funding support for fraud prevention, detection, investigation, and overpayment activities. And USDOL will be providing me additional $210,000 to help us with this fraud and overpayment issue. So I look forward to getting that additional money so that we can use that to give us additional resources in order to fight this. I do also want to bring to your attention that notice of determination for overpayments will be going out this week. And email instructions will also go out with them to the 70 identified cases that we have so far. We also have 105 appeal requests. Those are currently being scheduled and put together. We're, of course, waiting for PCOR 1 to be lifted in order to start hearing those appeals. So the overpayments. Most of the overpayments fall into three categories that I can speak of. Most of them are the PPP as a result of employers going back and paying employees backdating and paying them for the weeks. And then, of course, when they got that money, they've already applied for PUA for those weeks, and they disqualified, and they have to repay that monies back. That's one. Also, earnings reporting, failure to correctly remind you, this is not our program, we're just stewards. So as we get those letters out, I don't want you to be surprised if you get calls from angry claimants who are getting these notices that they have to pay these monies back. And it's not something I take any joy of doing, but it comes with the responsibility of doing this program. And I just want to let you know, these are federal funds, these are federal rules, and we are just the steward of this. And if your claim is not COVID related, then nobody in the local government can have any bearing on the outcome of that action. So all participants have an appeal right, and then after that, they can take it to the courts. And of course, some of these claims could be forwarded to the AG's office or to the OIG for their determination or collection. So I'm just the middleman, and I am just enforcing the rules. I have no judgment over anybody's claim about their, hardships or their reasons. If they weren't qualified because of COVID, then the federal guidelines are very strict. They have to pay it back. So just giving you an idea. Once these things go out, you're going to have some people get angry because they were laid off. They weren't reduced or let go because of COVID. They were, they spent the money that they accidentally had 2 claims in because they put in 2 accidental records, or they do something. They have to pay it back. So nobody wants to collect monies that they accidentally got, whether it's fraudulent or through accident, but that's something that comes with the territories of giving out this money. So that kind of gives you a nutshell of what the overpayments are, the instructions on them, and they do have a right to appeal. They will have a hearing, and they can present their arguments. And then after that, they can take it to the courts if they like. And we have the right, if we find fraud, or if we like, to move it to the OIG or to the AG for further collections. So now I'd like to go into the Lost Wages Act. That's the Trump's executive order and the FEMA grant.
Actually, Mr. Director, if we could just pause right there, we'll do one quick round of questions on the PUA benefits, on fraud and overpayments, and then we can have you give us that update on LWA and the FEMA grant. Is that okay? Just to give you a little rest. And so I just had a few clarifying questions with regard to the information that you just shared. Can you confirm you said 20,000 fraud claims?
Over 20,000 fraud claims.
Over 20,000.
Yes. And as we speak, in the last several weeks, our daily new claims that are being filed daily, 80% are fraud to 20% local.
Okay.
Without getting into specifics, I'm trying to give you an idea of what we're up against.
No, it makes a lot of sense. You don't want to kind of show your hand and say, this is exactly the kind of fraud that we're dealing with, because it just gives people, an opportunity to try to game the system that way, if that's what they're looking to do. But what's also very, very unfortunate is there are legitimate claims that are getting stopped up and held up because of these fraud claims. So if you had, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to maybe provide a message to the public if, things have kind of slowed a little bit because you have to take your eye off this portion to focus a little bit more on the fraud. Is there a message that you'd like to reiterate to the public with regard to the processing of claims?
Well, we do our best to try to find a good balance between going after identifying fraud and getting the claims out. My number one priority is to get the money out. And that's why we spend a little bit more time going through the daily claims that and trying to identify those fraud. Like anything, there could be a 5% catch of local claims, good claims to all the And that just goes with the territory of, like I said, and it's tougher and tougher to find out which ones are fraud and which ones are good local claims. It just is getting more and more difficult as time, because they just keep, every week they just keep hitting and changing, and they're getting smarter, and they're seeing that this isn't working, so let me try this, let me try this, and they keep changing it. And it's getting harder and harder to tell the locals good claims and the fraudulent claims. And we continue to, the number one priority in fixing and doing clean claims are the oldest ones, and then making sure the ones who haven't gotten any claims are given priority. The ones that are complaining because they haven't gotten their last weekly or two, those are done as we can, but they're not given a higher priority as those who have gotten nothing. And that's the balancing act that we're doing.
And Director Della Sola, you mentioned earlier about the PUA call center. If you could just provide that number once again for anybody who might be watching. And
so
for my colleagues.
The easiest number and the best number is the 311 option 6. Yeah, that one will get it. And of course, that whole system is not without its headaches, because it drops, it comes up, it does something, they kind of reprogrammed it. We had to move that over from GCC over to our new our area. So you constantly, we are constantly dealing with that headache. Some of the other numbers, if the 311 is the 735-0533 through 38. Those are the numbers that you can also try, and you can, but I'm not even sure if they even put we kept asking about the busy signals. So if you don't hear a busy signal and you hear constant ringing, it is because all our people are on the phones. And as soon as they hang up, boom, another one pops up.
Right.
So that is something that, you have to remember also, we were on the decline when this new P Corps hit. Our staffs shrunk. We released all the GovGuam workers back to their agencies because they were pretty much getting back to a normalcy, and the initial wave of claims reduced, and then all of a sudden this hit us unexpectedly. Yeah. So we're dealing with this whole P Corps 1 with a smaller group of people. And,
well, I did want to, okay, thank you very much, Mr. Director. I did want to give my colleagues an opportunity to ask questions. I still have a few more questions on PUA and the overpayments, but I just wanted to do one quick round. So Senator Pito Terlahi, did you have any questions for the director with regard to PUA benefits? Or
not at the moment, but I just want to thank Dave for his continuing efforts in providing us with the information that we needed to know. Thank you very much, Dave.
I thank you, and most especially my staff. Thank you.
Today.
What's that?
I'll see you at 3 o'clock today again.
Thanks, Senator.
Thank you. And I just at this time wanted to recognize Senator Tello Taidegui has also joined us. So thank you, Senator Terlahi. Senator Mary Torres, did you have any questions?
No, I don't, Madam Chair. Thank you. Dave, thank you for the information as always.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Castro?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Director Hafade, I took some notes, so maybe you can help me out. Total FPUC at 924 million, authorized releases up to 509, and we've released 321.5 thus far. Did I get those notes correct? I just want to make sure I put that
321
down.
in FPUC benefits and PUA, 350 including local tax.
Okay, and then that's okay. And then you said it's about a 80 to 20 fraudulent versus successful claim rate, right? So would that be 80% of 320 that was fraudulent, you think?
No. I'm just saying, when we first started the claims, it was mostly all local claims, almost all. And as time went on, the claims, local claims were here, fraud was like almost zero. And as time goes on, it slowly started going like this. As our local claims went down, our fraudulent claims went up, and it went like that. So to say, has some fraud been paid? Yes, to a minimum. So that 350 million that I said that went out, I'd like to think most of that are good, clean claims.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And then just my, Madam Chair, do you want me to wait? I have one more follow-up question, but it can wait till you did your other round. Or
No, feel free.
okay, thanks. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Madam Chair. And Director, one more time. So you mentioned 321 million in payouts for FPUC and about 28 million in taxes, and I missed it. Would that be an income tax or withholding tax or both? I would imagine it's income tax.
Every claimant has the option to check that they want to hold taxes out, and 10% of their claim gets withheld for taxes.
Okay,
at their
so
option.
thank
So
you for that.
The 10% of the claimant's withholding.
Okay, got you. So it's either or. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. Thank you, Director Dave. That's been very helpful. I never really zeroed in on the income or withholding taxes, and it's so relevant to today's budget discussion. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Castro. Senator Talatidegui, any questions for Dave?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hafaday, Dave. Hafaday.
Hey, Senator.
First I'd like to thank you for going on the air quite a bit, and informing the public of what's going on. That's very important, and what you're doing, so people realize what's happening at Department of Labor and, the hope that you're giving out to those who are unemployed. So I greatly appreciate that, and encourage you to continue to do so. So thank you. I do want to ask, Senator Castro asked you a question that, was part of the question I had too, but you answered it in part. Now the next question is, how many of those individuals are opting to take out their tax now or take out later?
I don't have that report with me since it is an option. I do want to say that majority are opting to get taxes taken out, but the exact number, that is something that I would have to ask my software vendor if that is a report that they could pull, and they would have to program it and see what versus how many claimants are withholding and how many aren't. So I don't have that number.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you. And once again, to all the staff at DOL, please give them our very best and our gratitude for the hard work that they're doing.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Tadigui. Also joining us is Speaker Tina Rose Munya-Barnes. Speaker, do you have any questions for the director? He gave us a brief update on PUA and fraud and overpayments. So if you have any questions about those, feel free to ask them.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Dave, for being on this afternoon. As you know, our office has been very instrumental in assisting a lot of the PUA clients that come through here. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, there were some of them that needed updated information because the application has come through. They've received that date, but they've received an claim award, but they have not received anything to date. Have you been able to look at all the applications that have been processed through, but yet have not received their award via their bank or via check in the mail?
I'm not sure I understand what your question is.
The question is they've gone through the whole application,
Yeah,
but they still have not received anything.
there must be a problem then, right?
Yes, and when the employee calls, they keep saying, just be patient and wait. So I've got a couple of those. And
Well,
I
then
just wanted to ask,
they should be, yes, processed for payment during the next batch. Now, there could be a
Hey, next
number
time.
of reasons why they don't receive it. It could be they put in incorrect banking information. It could be there was, it's being a check and the checks take longer to get out. It could be a number of things, but if they are, and they should get a notice on their dashboard that their claim has been processed.
Yes,
And
they
once
have.
they see
So,
that, so then that
so
it
the-
is something that it's been processed. It could be, like I said, a typical of that is that there are checks and they still taking time, or their ACH information. We get about 300 in every batch of people putting in the incorrect routing numbers or account numbers,
so
and then
I
you get,
understand that.
yeah.
So what I
Other
wanted
than
to
that,
do,
I
you
have
have a
to know.
person-
I'd
do
have
you
to
have
know the
anybody that
individual
can-
claimant. Sorry.
Okay. That's okay. So my question to you is, do you have a contact person within your office to take any of these constituent concerns that have not been followed through, besides the answer of just keep waiting? Because
If you-
maybe what needs to happen is somebody else needs to review or look at the process to see where the glitch or the discrepancy is.
Yes, we do have people for that. And
So-
the best thing I can do is if you identify any of these people, just give them their email to me, and I will discuss that with my team, that when you get these kind of people, to send them to the correct person, and they will be handled correctly. So I'm making note of that, so that there'll be an adjustment on how they're being handled, and when they call in, so that they
Thank
can
you.
get the right information.
Thank you, Director David. I really appreciate that. I will go ahead and forward the list over with the concerns, and hopefully the consumers or the constituents can finally find out what the situation is. So truly appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll wait for another round. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thanks again, Director Della Sola. Just to wrap up on PUA and these overpayments, I have two additional questions. So can you give us an idea of how many claimants are currently in this system? And also if you're seeing any delays in the processing of paper checks because of the governor's declaration of PCOR 1 and the stay-at-home order?
Not much delays on my end. Once it sends down to DOA, I know the PCOR 1 has slowed things down a bit, and they're working to get these claims out as quickly as possible. To get an exact update, I'd have to talk to Ed Burns. That goes from his side, not from my side so much. But I know from the last time I spoke to him that they are constantly processing. It's just such a laborious task, and there's such a large number that they're doing the best they can to get this thing up and out as quickly as possible with, of course, the PCOR 1 situation.
And how many claimants are in the system?
Probably, I haven't gotten an exact, we have a total of 65,000 initial claims in, but that gives you with including fraud and all that. But I last time I heard we were close to over 30,000 claimants, individual claimants in the system.
Okay. And with regard to overpayments, what can you share with us about the main causes for overpayments? Is it a reporting issue on the claimant side, or I'm just trying to understand it a little bit better.
Well, the three things that I basically told you about, the PPP payments,
right?
A lot of those
reporting, you said.
Yeah, they came back and they might have got it in May, the money, and they decided to make it payments to the employees in March, or they didn't get it until June, or they they were holding the monies until the last minute, till the beginning of July, and then they decided to distribute the money to the employees and backdate it. That is probably our largest batch of overpayments, are those who received PPP payments after they already got their PUA payments. So that changed their earnings for that week. And that, of course, they can't collect both monies. They have to pay back the PUA money. And earnings reporting, sometimes they forgot to correctly put in their earnings for that week for whatever reason. And then, of course, what we're finding through audits and through our PUA hotlines and through various sources, unemployment that wasn't COVID related.
Got it.
So they filed and they are saying that their unemployment was because of COVID. And then we later found out that it wasn't true.
Okay,
based
got it.
on the categories.
Okay, and just one last question to wrap up the PUA discussion before we move on to LWA and the FEMA grant. With regard to the system, is the system able to support submitted claims of employees who were maybe previously unemployed, but then they went back to work and then became unemployed again? I ask because we've received some concerns from constituents who were submitting second claims, and then the system read them as errors. And I want to assess if GDOL and maybe the PUA system has kind of figured out how to help employees with these concerns during this second PCOR 1 stay-at-home order. As you were mentioning, you were going back and forth, and you've had to release some staff members that were given to you from other agencies. So you're kind of experiencing this too. And so I just wanted to see if GDOL is aware of this and how you're working to address it.
Yes, it caught us by surprise, this PCOR 1, and we all know that there was a lot of people that went back to work, and then they were all of a sudden unemployed, and they haven't applied for several weeks, over a month, and the system really wasn't designed for them to go back like that. So a lot of them did, and we had to quickly try to figure out a solution. And one thing I'm learning with when you're working with programs this big and complicated, there's no word of quickly. It's all complicated, trial and error. So we have it now, I think, fixed, but some of them did get some backdating issues. Some, it was not a quick and easy fix. So yes, it has been identified, and we like to think that it's been corrected.
Okay,
so,
that's helpful for us. And again, I just want to reiterate that I think that you and the entire team at GDOL have done, just a tremendous amount of work. There are so many states out there that have had UI programs in place for decades, and they're still struggling. You saw photos of, people in the states waiting out in long lines to be able to apply for PUA and for FPUC. And while we've had our challenges here on Guam, I think it's really a testament to all of the hard work and the dedication of GDOL that we were able to stand up a program that didn't even exist prior to this. And that we are really trying to stay on top of it, on top of the fraud, on top of the overpayment, on top of all of these changes. And it's a really fluid and dynamic situation. So I really appreciate, and like one of the senators mentioned, you constantly coming to speak with us as a body, speak with the people of Guam, and keep us all up to date on this. So with that, Dave, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to speak about the $400 LWA and then possibly the FEMA grant, if you could give us an update on that.
Sure. This whole program, you talk about, is like PUA on steroids. They implemented this whole program in a couple weeks. And it was, every time we spoke with them, every time we sat down and met with them, they basically answered questions that we've been asking. And it's really been on the fly. And so, I give you what I know as of the last time we met with them, and there are still more questions that they still don't have answers to, because like you said, when the president says we're going to give out 300, only 44 billion, make it work. And then FEMA and USDOL had to design, put in policies, procedures, and figure out how they were going to implement it. So we did apply for the grant on the 2nd of September. Several days later, they came back with us with some additional questions that they needed information that was not on the application, but is something that they learned. And we turned it in on the 8th, and then the 9th they approved it. I mean, that's how quickly it all happened. So we put in for $22.6 million for this program.
Sorry,
And
you're talking about the 9th of September or the 9th of August?
the 9th of September.
Oh, okay, great.
That's how quickly this thing all happened. They just presented it to us like a week before that, the 2nd, about this whole program and how they were going to try to do it. They were trying to figure out with 44 billion, how do I fund this when they know it isn't enough? So that's when they first said, okay, 3 weeks, give us a budget for 3 weeks to fill out this application. So we did fill it out. Basically, the $22.6 million we figured was approximately 25,000 unemployed individuals for 3 weeks, collecting 300. And the 7.5 million is 100 times that 25,000 for 3 weeks. And that's what we basically padded for. And it's been approved. The money has been last Friday. We were informed that money was loaded into our payment management system, and DOA today is starting to work on establishing the 3 accounts necessary. You need 3 accounts. You need a local match account for the 7.5 million. You need the FEMA benefits. These are the $300. And then you have the admin costs, which were a very small amount. But those all have to be 3 separate and exclusive of each other. As I spoke of, the grant covers $300 with Gov Guam paying the $100. And the big difference between the FPUC and the LWA is that the participant must have received $100 of PUA for the work week between July 26th to the 15th. That's the 3-week period. So each of those work weeks, they had to receive a minimum of $100 of PUA in order to qualify for the LWA program.
Okay.
So
Thank you, Director.
as easy as this sounds, though, Senator, I must say, that sounds so easy. That's the easy part, saying it. The hard part with us and 32 other states, as you mentioned, is programming the software to handle this as a separate program that's tied to the PUA but paid separately.
Got it.
That is not something that's very easy to do. And as I said, as the last I heard, which was last week, 7 states were paying it out. 32 states were still struggling on trying to figure out a way, with some saying it could take up to 2 months just to implement this program.
Wow.
I do want to say that when they did give us the money, that they told us that it's not only for 3 weeks, but the whole program will run 6 weeks. And how this is going to run is that the monies that we have budgeted will run for the 3 weeks. If we feel that we have enough funding to roll over for another week, we have to apply and get approval. And then same with week 4, 5, and 6.
Got
If
it.
you run out of money, then you have to apply for a whole new budget for week 4 and also for 5. And if they have monies left over, they will fund you and approve you. So up to 6 weeks max.
All right. Well,
So
I certainly want to give kudos to you and your team for the quick application process, for responding so quickly, and for helping to get this up and running. And just to reiterate for my colleagues and those watching, GDOL recently announced that FEMA has approved the full amount of Guam's request, what the director said, $22.6 million for the Lost Wages Assistance, so that's LWA program, which would enable GDOL to provide an additional $400 a week to these qualified claimants. So I just want to go around one round
there
about.
is one caveat that I wanted to speak on.
Sure,
That is
sure.
a very important distinction between the PUA and the FPUC versus the LWA. And this is the biggest headache that not only me, but all the states had, was the big difference is that Guam and all the states are liable for all the fraud or overpayments that are made for this program. So with that in mind, if I am able to program the system and get that all done, that we have to scrub it extra carefully to ensure that as many clean claims are paid out and that we don't get caught with that liability at the end of the program. So that's a huge difference.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Director Della Sola. Speaker Tina, do you have any questions for the director on LWA and this FEMA grant?
No, thank you. Not at this time.
Okay, Senator Pito Terlahi, any questions?
I just wanted to ask Dave, because Dave, you mentioned 20 has been determined to have committed fraud. So how many people have received the money out of those 20,000 that have been determined to have committed fraud?
None. Those are the ones that we've identified and disqualified.
So, okay, Dave, in determining that they committed fraud, maybe some of these people just don't understand what to report and what is legal to report. So we're talking about, if some people receive the money and they kind of undermine the system, who pays for it? Is the claim going to come with those people that have undermined the system, or the government?
If I understand your question, it is DOL, that's my responsibility to collect as much as possible. And then after that, it's turned over to the OIG, Office of Inspector General. Guam isn't liable for overpayments or fraud for the PUA.
So eventually the responsible person is going to have to pay for it.
Yes. The claimant that was erroneously paid, whether fraudulently or unfraudulently, they have to pay back the monies that they shouldn't have gotten. And they have to collect it.
Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Pito. Senator Taidegui, any questions for?
Thank you, Dave, for that additional information. I'd like to congratulate you too on the 22 million. It's going to come in very handy, and don't stop there. Keep going. Get everything we can. We definitely need it. And I'd also like to congratulate you on the ability to hire to assist Department of Public Health and Social Services with contact tracing by being able to hire 24 additional people to help public health during this time. So I'd like to also congratulate Department of Labor for also doing that. That's going to be very helpful. I'm looking forward to that announcement being posted everywhere. So anybody who's out of a job or been furloughed, it's an opportunity to go there. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Taidegui. Senator Camacho Torres, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Castro?
Just some compliments. Thank you, Director. I sent you something on the general chat. Your staff's been professional, even those that are temporarily moved in to assist your team. So Just want to state that publicly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Castro. Mr. Director, you mentioned before 3 accounts. So one for the FEMA benefits, one for local match, and then another for administrative costs. And I wanted to ask, were the administrative costs, like for DOA, included in this FEMA grant?
Those are indirect costs. They should be included. And it isn't much. We didn't ask for much for administration fees, because most of this money is just kind of running with our PUA people. And we weren't sure of how much we were able to get. But we always include our DOA people, but I can't say 100% sure right off the top of my head. Too many numbers in there.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Director. Before we wrap up, I did want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about dislocated worker grant opportunities, as well as some childcare guidance that GDOL has issued in the last few weeks. And then also to just give my colleagues an opportunity to give one last round of questions. So with regards to the dislocated worker grants, you recently announced that you're hiring temporary workers who may have been laid off or furloughed from their job as a direct result of COVID to help with humanitarian cleanup efforts, to help with contact tracing. And this is all funded by the National Dislocated Worker Grant. So how much did GDOL receive for this program, and how many temporary workers can we hire?
So yes, we received $1.5 million and we identified hiring about 200 temporary workers for 6 months to do various COVID recovery efforts. We've been very active in the hiring. To date, we have 115, and 6 have dropped out because of successful employment, which is what the whole program is about. The work sites have been public health, Homeland Security, Rev and Tax, our PUA processing center, DOE, Public Works, and the mayor's office. And like you said, the individuals that are eligible are the people who have been laid off or furloughed because of COVID, not general unemployed people, but you have to have been laid off or furloughed because of COVID. And those are the people that we are trying to hire. On September 3rd, we did a press release asking for maintenance and house cleaning for various hospitals and Homeland Security. We were able to pick up 18 people, so that was very successful. This morning, we released another press release asking for data control clerks and community program aides. The data control clerks will be in addition to the ones that are, the 12 that are already assigned to public health that Senator Tello mentioned. We're looking to provide them additional staffing for contact tracing, for data entry, and also for community program aides for disease surveillance and outreach programs. As we all heard, public health has been overstretched, and they are limiting some data for information because of the increase. So we're trying to help our sister agency by giving them people to assist with their contact tracers and their people, so that they can provide the data and get more services out. So we're hoping to get them with an additional 24 people, and we're asking for people to come in who are detailed oriented and that fit that kind of description and would like to work and help out.
Right.
So that's going on.
Yeah, really, really critical at this time. Like I was mentioning, the the GDOL recently announced also new guidelines from the federal government about qualifying for paid leave under the Family First Coronavirus Response Act and eligibility for pandemic unemployment assistance. And I know that the department is currently awaiting further guidance from US DOL on this matter, but I just wanted to ask when can GDOL expect to move forward with these guidelines? I understand the current school year is underway with distance learning as the main mode of teaching at this point in time. So I just hope that we can come to a resolution soon to be able to provide our working families with this much needed childcare assistance during the pandemic.
So I asked a myriad of questions. Some questions have been answered, some have not.
Okay.
So what we have been able to get questions is basically, if you remember, school year opened up very complicated.
Mm-hmm.
They give you all kinds of options, and some were all online, some were online and in school, and some were in school, and then you had that combination. And so it wasn't easy to bring that kind of question up to the USDOL, but they were questions that were being asked nationwide.
Right.
So the best way I can answer that question is that for those who are like right now, who are strictly all online and have to stay home, you qualify for PUA. That is a qualifying event. And if you have to stay home for the whole school year because your school is strictly online, then you qualify 100%. If your school is online and in school, then you qualify only for when they are offline and have to be home.
Got it.
And
Okay.
then if you're given the three options and your school does offer in-school teaching, then you don't qualify at all.
Okay.
Because even though you may have the other two options, you still have the option to go send your kids in school. And if you don't like it because you don't feel comfortable, that's not the COVID PUA guidelines.
I see.
And that's what the attorneys have stated to us. So
Yeah.
this is not my fault. I can
No, I
only give
understand.
you.
But thank you very much for clarifying that. We've had
Yeah.
a number of calls and questions from constituents about that program. So I just wanted to get a little bit more clarity so that I can understand it better and communicate that to them and just share it with my colleagues as well. And so with that, Director Della Sola, I'm just going to do one last round of questions before we conclude. So Speaker, any other questions for?
I did have one more point to bring up.
Oh, sure. Go for it.
The last point I wanted to let you know of, just to give you an idea, is that we've submitted another grant for dislocated workers. We submitted a grant and we're hoping, keep our fingers crossed, for $12 million to answer the call for a lot of our COVID unemployed. And this money, we're working very closely with GCC, and they work together with their workforce for boards, and we're also with our training partners. This money will be used for retraining and upskilling the unemployed into the demand occupations. And it'll be used for classroom and OJT, and some of the monies will be used for medical, coding, billing, certified nursing assistants, ship repair, transportation, construction, telecommunications, IT, and heavy equipment operators. So, of course, those are the jobs that are in demand now, even during COVID. And those people that are in the hotels, those people who have been laid off. As I've said in many radio interviews, now's the time to upskill yourself, to get better trained and educated. And or seek new occupation that is in demand. We're going to need plenty of truck drivers. We are going to need lots of construction. Where telecommunication is still booming. Heavy equipment is always down at the port. They can't even find enough operators. These are ship repair. These are all high-paying jobs that require certifications or through apprenticeship. And we will pay for you to get those skills and those certifications. So that is something that I'm hoping in the next weeks to hear some positive news. Keep our fingers crossed that they will approve $12 million for that.
Thank you very much for that update. And also thank you to Dr. Okada, who has been your partner in this and really trying to help us sustain and continue to develop our workforce even during this very trying time. Speaker Barnes, any questions for the director?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. I just want to thank Mr. De Sola for being here and just following up with us as always.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Just before I forget, I really want to thank all of the members of the legislature who've joined us. We had to take a lunch break for our session, but I know that many of you probably haven't even had an opportunity to eat, and we're about to go back into session right after this. So I really appreciate you taking the time to participate in these hearings with Department of Labor. We know thousands of our constituents are unemployed right now. So this really, really is very critical, and I appreciate you participating in this discussion. Senator Terlahi, any questions for the director? If not, we'll move on to Senator Titagui. Any questions, ma'am?
I think he went to get something to eat. His stomach
I
was
don't blame him.
But anyways, thank you, Madam Chair. And again, thank you, Dave. And, you're absolutely right. It's good to know that you're now gearing yourself to retraining our workforce here on Guam. We can't be sustainable on tourism, as we've basically found out in this pandemic, that anything can happen. And we're working more towards sustainability. So these grants that you receive to train individuals in other things like nursing, agriculture, aquaculture, those are very important at this time. It really is. We don't know when this pandemic is going to, subside a bit, or even a vaccine coming soon. But it gives us the opportunity at this time to retrain. And I'm glad that you are focusing in that direction. I encourage you to continue to do so. And I was part of the, I think a 3-day with GCC on that. And it was excellent information and good information. So thank you again, Dave. Take care. Okay.
Thank you, Senator Titagui. Senator Camacho Torres, any questions for the director?
Yes, Dave, I was just wondering, what is that potential liability for the fraud and mistakes that you may be liable for if not recouped?
I don't have a dollar figure. All I can tell you is that we're going to do some extra work to make sure that the list that we pay out is scrubbed as best as possible to ensure that we limit that fraud liability as much as possible.
Yeah, but so far you said about 70, there are 70 matters that you're pursuing. Did I hear that right?
That's overpayments.
Overpayments.
And those aren't necessarily fraud.
Oh,
Those
I
are
see.
just people that got paid either incorrectly or had income that they got paid the PUA that they have to repay back.
I see. Okay. That's a different thing. All right, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Castro?
I'm fine. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, I really want to thank my colleagues, and thank you, Dave, so much for your time and your attention. We covered a lot in this short amount of time, but I just, really want to thank our partners at Guam Department of Labor. So Director De La Sola, Hannah Cho, and the team there for joining us this afternoon and for your presentation and for answering our questions. I do want to just reiterate that this committee stands ready to continue to provide oversight, but also provide support to the department in any way that we can, any way that you can think of. I think we work pretty well together, Dave, and we've really tried to amplify a lot of the messages that have come out of the department and agencies, sharing it on our legislative channel, sharing it with our colleagues and all of our constituents. So I really want to thank you so much for helping us and for being our partner. I appreciate it very much. And with that, I'll just say, Sidus Masi, Todesamzu Purifanatan Mizu Pago, the Committee on Federal and Foreign Affairs, Telecommunications, Technology, and Labor hereby concludes this virtual oversight hearing. Written testimonies may be submitted through email at Senator Biscoe Lee at guamlegislature.org, or they can be submitted via our Dropbox here at the Guam Congress Building, 163 Chalan Santo Papa in Hagåtña, until the close of business on Monday, September 28th, 2020. And with that, please everyone take good care, and we will be scheduling another hearing, probably an informational briefing in the next few months, just to get an additional update on all of these programs. And we thank you so much for your participation. This oversight hearing is now adjourned. The time is 2:07 p.m. Situ Usmawasi.
Just Masi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave.